So mine is a task today to talk to you for a few minutes about life after youth ministry. And I want to start out by making this statement that within that statement alone is a big problem. Life after youth ministry. You see, for me, you don't have a life after youth ministry because once you were a youth director, you continue to be a youth worker for as long as you shall live. If you find that you are excited to get out of youth ministries, you should not have been in it in the first place. You should not have any desire. When you see I don't know if they still do this, but first time in the church, you know that when you turn 35, you're not a youth anymore. So if I don't know if they still do that, but let us say it is still the case. So if you are looking towards 35 to say, I can't wait to retire from youth ministry, you perhaps should not have been in it in the first place. You should be looking at that age coming towards you with some amount of trepidation, some amount of concern to say, oh my, am I going to become outdated in a little while? So I do not believe that there is necessarily a life after youth ministry. I believe that what you do is pivot from one area of working or serving in youth ministry to another. And I want to give you just 3 basic thoughts to consider as you seek to pivot from youth ministry life. So, or not from, but within youth ministry's life. All right, so let me see the hands of all those who enjoy being a youth worker. And be honest now. You enjoy being a youth worker. Or some of you barely put it up, so I don't know what that means. And then some didn't put it up. So is there anybody who is like, I don't think this is for me? Anybody? I'm just doing it because pastor won't relieve me of it. Anybody who fits that description? Really? So some of you don't enjoy being a youth worker, but at the same time, you're not looking forward to get out of it. So you're kind of in the middle. So one of the things that you can begin to do, and I say this behind the backdrop that being a youth worker is something that should be empowering to you. It is something that you should be so knowledgeable. You should have so much information about youth and youth life so that you can pivot within youth ministry to be what I call a youth ministry strategist. Now, you may not have heard that word before, or that term before, and let me explain to you what I mean. Because you have experience, you have knowledge, you have working knowledge of the inner workings of youth ministry. You know, if you are not in the rough and tumble of youth ministry, can operate from a strategic level. By that I mean, you are writing youth ministry's program, you are in a place where you can help to evaluate youth ministry and offer recommendations for solutions to problems and so on that youth ministries face because of your own experience. It's pretty much like being a consultant. And you are doing that because of the in-depth knowledge that you have. For you to do that, however, it is important that while you are serving as in youth ministry, that you're also not doing what is practical, but you're trying to improve on your academic capacity as well. So you should look for youth ministry courses that are being offered, and a lot of things are happening online now, or even some theological courses that would give you a sort of functionality as a youth worker. And you're doing that for 2 things. You're doing that to help you to better function as a youth worker, and you're doing that so that you can function even more efficiently when you exit the rough and tumble, as I call it, of youth ministry life. So you should see your position where you are now as creating opportunities for you to be better able to serve the body of Christ. Now let me point out, and hasten to do so to you, that when I talk about youth ministry strategist or consultant, if you prefer, don't expect that it is something for which you are going to be paid. You have to be willing to volunteer. And so, but if you like what you do and your objectives and your goal is correct, if you can see the value in what you do, then the financial part of it would not deter you so much. I can tell you this, that some of the greatest work that you can do, you will never be paid for it. And if you are not prepared to do things that does not attract any monetary compensation, then you are in for a life that is not fulfilling. For some of the things that you are going to do that will be most fulfilling and most impactful, you will never earn a cent from doing that. And some of the things that you do that is most distressing, most upsetting, most frustrating is the thing for which you collect a check at the end of the month. So you can also impact youth ministry from what I call an administrative standpoint. And simply put, aim towards being a pastor in the church. Now I know how some of you cringe by that. But it is only nowadays, really within the last maybe 15, 20 years, that youth leaders do not transition into pastoral leadership. But if you look at it, and if you do a survey across the body of the Church of God of Prophecy, you'll find that many, many of the pastors today once served in the area of youth ministry. Because as a youth leader or as a youth worker, you are in fact the pastor of the young people. You are not just there as their little friend or so on or whatever you think it is, but you are there as really being their shepherd. So, and one of the things I say to youth workers when I talk to them all the time is, if you as a youth worker only interact with the young people when you see them in church, you have a big problem. You have to go to their graduations. You have to go when their grandmother died. You have to go and support them when they are experiencing their transitions in life. You have to be a part of that experience. Or else, they will never take you seriously when you are trying to get them to do the things that you want them to do. And I served for many years as a youth leader, about 7 years or so. Maybe that's not so many now that you look back at it. But I found myself having to, from time to time, go to things like graduation. Young people come and say, "Oh, Brother Headlam, you know, I'm graduating Wednesday." And I'm thinking, maybe they're telling me because they'd like to see their youth leader at the graduation. So of course I turn up at the graduation. I don't say I go to every bit of them, but you turn up at the graduation. Now I found out that sometimes the graduations are so long that once I cause them to see me at the beginning and I see them march up and whatever, they're not interested to see me at the end because they're going to be taking photographs and so on and so forth. So there's no need for me to sit down there for the 3-4 hours of the graduation if I don't have the time. But the fact that you took the time out to be with them in that special moment of their lives, when you want them to lead the praise and worship in church, they're not going to give you the hard time that they give you now. You have to invest in time with the young people. And I know today in our busy life and so on, investing in people is not something we are doing in church. Everybody's busy. We kind of just on a track on our own. and it's me, my family, and so on. But if you want to impact people's lives, you have to invest. And I make the point because if you practice that and it works, then and you enjoy it, which you should, the only logical outcome to that is to continue in that vein, and you can pivot within youth ministry to what I call the administrative functions, which would be to be a pastor. Now, if you're a pastor who was a youth ministry director, there can be no shortage of impact of your life in that congregation, because you would have known from your own experience what you desired from your pastor as a youth leader. And you are going to bring that to bear upon your congregation when you become the pastor, because you knew how important it was for you when you sat in that chair. So even today, and my youth leaders, some of them down here looking at me, can tell you that I consider myself as very supportive to the youth ministry of the church. As a matter of fact, there was a time when I went to meetings and I would hear that all Pastor Headlam talk about is the young people, the young people, the young people. What about the old people? Because I do not believe that I can abandon the young people of the church. And my youth leaders must know that they have my support. And the young people must know that they have my support, right? So I'm very thankful for that experience, because it helps me to be better able to function as a youth, as a pastor of young people. Then, of course, you have what you call the third point. So first of all, we have, what was the first one? What was the first pivoting? The strategic level, or a strategist, as I call it. The second one would be what? Administrative. All right, say it with me. The first one is what? Strategic. Everybody say strategic. The second one is administrative. All right, so you have the strategic and you have the administrative. And now I'm coming to the final one, which is relational. Relational. So you may not be the young youth leader, or not even a youth worker that is appointed in your church. But does that remove the capacity within you to be a mentor? Does it remove the capacity within you to be an encourager of young people? I don't think it does. As a matter of fact, you should have so much within you to still give to young people that you're finding ways to impact the young people's lives. So for instance, I have been a youth camp worker since many of you were born. I think the first year I went and served in youth camp was when we had Gilbert. That was 1988. How many of you inside here were born after 1988? Many of you, right? You don't know, young bird don't know storm, right? That was the first year I served in youth camp, 1988. And I have not stopped serving in youth camp for the entire period of time, except for the last 2 years when we had no camp because of the pandemic. Why? Because I see myself as serving in a mentoring or a relational role in working with young people. It also helps me to be grounded in how young people operate, because there is no better university to understand young people than in the camp. And so I find it and I make it a point of my duty, no matter what I do, every year, once camp is happening for the past how many years, I make it a point of my duty, not because I'm the camp director. I haven't been the camp director now for some time. But even then, I continue to go to camp, and I enjoy going to the teens camp, because again, the adult camp that is after that, I find it to be too senior for me. Because I find the teens camp to be full of life and they're full of problems too. but it gives you an opportunity to impact. So there is the relational part of it. But you don't have to go to camp, because in your congregations, there are young people who need mentors. They need fathers and mothers. And as much as some of you think you are young and so on, anytime you hear the young people start to call you sir, you know, say, you're gone down the hill. Or you're on the top of the hill, right? Getting ready to go down, right? So, yes, you are going to ensure that you serve your youth in a relational capacity. They need mentors, fathers and mothers in the faith who will help to guide them, right? You can also serve outside of the church, because you would have had so much training and opportunity for development within the church that you can also serve outside of the church. So you can start even in your community, mentorship programs, groups, young people's, you can work with Police Youth Club, you can work with Citizens Association to bring your experience to bear upon the young people of your community. You can think about how you can implement something where you work. Some of you are teachers and you are working in industries where there are young people or there are parents of young people. In other words, the point I'm saying here is that your opportunities that you are getting as a youth leader should not be squandered because you have gone beyond the youth leadership or the youth worker age. There are many things that I hope that you will see how you can do when you get beyond that stage of your lives. So in closing, I would say to you, where's my notes? In closing, I would say to you, do not see your youth life as a destination. See it as a journey. And once you see it as a journey, you're going to remain on that journey until you can go no further. And perhaps that will be until you die. For you can always be pivoting from one area of serving young people to another. And as you grow older, with your youth experience, your life experience, your educational experience, and all of those experiences come together, it should make you a much more rounded individual to impact young people's lives through relational ways. So, what are the three tools that I give you this afternoon? 1, strategic. 2, administrative. And 3, I thank you very much.
Give Bishop Dr. Junior Headlam a rousing round of applause. Thank you very much, Bishop. Thank you very much.